Hello and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about an event that just happened, the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future. I personally am crazy excited about this. This is, for better or worse, my favorite movie ever. I'm curious. I'm joined by my good buddy Caleb. Where does it fall in your ranking of your top movies?
Oh, I would say top 10. Easily
Okay,
top 10.
nice.
It's
All
not
right.
number one, but
Yeah.
it's close. I mean, I love Back to
Okay.
the Future.
All
Yeah.
right. That's most excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to the talk of Back to the Future very shortly. First, we want to bring to your attention that we are brought to you by the Center for Progressive Christianity. We highly encourage you to go there for all of your progressive Christian resources. You'll find all kinds of things. We know you'll be pleased. We're also sponsored by the Progressive Christian Alliance, a diverse, inclusive community reclaiming faith through justice, compassion, and radical welcome. There we go. And also the Christian Left, where following Jesus means standing up for the poor, the oppressed, and the truth, no matter how unpopular it gets. So we're going to dive into this. I think you'll be surprised at some of my questions because I do love this movie, but it's got issues. I'm curious, though, we need some adult beverages to help us enjoy this ride. So I'm curious what you decided to have today.
So, of course, they go back to the future and back to the past in a DeLorean. And in order to power that DeLorean, at least in the first movie, what they need is plutonium.
Right.
And so I've got a plutonium cocktail here. And
what's in it?
It looks like somebody else might have a plutonium cocktail.
Mine is they're not going to be the same recipe, I'm certain.
Okay. Mine is and I've got it kind of in this jar or this kind of thing.
You one of those tall, skinny ones?
Yeah.
It looks like the tube that dropped down.
Oh, but ours look different. Mine, it has lime vodka, has butterscotch schnapps, and some melon liqueur to give it kind of this yellow greenish look.
Whoop. I like it. Well, in the movie, while that is much closer to the actual color of plutonium, in the movie they decided to make it red. So I've gone with a red one, and it's really, really simple. It is, of course, bourbon, my favorite liquor, but then it's also, since it's plutonium, I've added some lime flavored liquid death, the flavored water liquid death.
I love that.
And then I do too. And this lime flavor has become my all-time favorite one. That, and of course, a little grenadine to give it its red color. And so I think we're set, man. We're ready for this ride back to the future, back to the wherever we're going. It'll be a fantastic trip. And we've got beverages to get us there. So we'll take a quick drop and we'll talk to everybody on the other side.
Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Hello and welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show, where today we are geeking out about Back to the Future, and we'll do this for a little bit, and then we'll get into the theology and politics of it all. But just in case you've missed the last 40 years.
Spoiler alert. I did forget to give a spoiler alert, but I didn't really think that, after 40 years.
I mean, right. I mean, if you don't know it by now, I mean, where have you been? I don't know. But Back to the Future is, of course, the 80s classic movie of Marty McFly, who accidentally goes back in time 30 years using Doc Brown's DeLorean time machine and interferes in his parents' relationship, accidentally making his mom fall in love with him instead of his dad. Then he has to play Love Connection to get the two back together, all while figuring out how to get back to 1985. And I should just point out to everyone out there, just to make us all feel nice and old, that if this were made today, it would mean we were going back to the grand old time of 1995, right? 30 years in the past, 1995.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's rough to hear, man.
And it's rough to hear. I think that's probably rough for all of us. Okay, Mark, this is your favorite movie.
hmm
Why? Why is Back to the Future your favorite movie?
Um, it's a lot of pieces. So Spielberg produces.
Yep.
Zemeckis is part of it as well. So they were already two of my favorites at that time. Michael J. Fox was one of my all-time favorite comedic actors. Just loved him to death.
Alex P.
Uh,
Keaton.
I
Family
was
Ties.
a rabid, over the top Huey Lewis and the News fan.
Yep.
And so it had the elements there, and was a science fiction fantasy person. So it all came together. And then the storytelling is so brilliant. There's so much wonderful wordplay, which I was already at that age, which is high school for me. I know, don't talk about your age at that point. But I was already into clever writing and clever wordplay and watching things fold back on itself and recalls. And so it was just so much brilliant stuff about it. The pacing was fantastic. The score was absolutely amazing. And overall, at least at that time in the 80s, it felt very hopeful and optimistic. And there was something wonderful about that. And there was this feeling of a moment can change your life. And there's something when you are in high school, about to go to college or not far from it, thinking that making the right choices, that making a good one choice could change everything for the positive for you. So, and there's more elements than that, but there was just this sort of perfect mix of it almost felt like if someone was to sit down and analyze Mark, what movie would they make? It would have been this movie.
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It was made for you.
Yeah.
Just for Mark.
What did you love so much about it?
Well, I think in part it's nostalgia for me too. I think we did talk about this a couple years ago, and I think I was remembering going back whenever I was a kid, and I had it on VHS tape, and like not the actual VHS tape. It was one where we had like recorded it on TV,
right?
And so throughout my childhood, I grew up watching that VHS tape of like the commercials. I still remember the commercials that were
do you
on
really?
too. Yeah, like there's Toys R Us commercial and like what the gum, like a Big Red.
Oh yeah, I love Big Red.
Big Red, So I remember like all those commercials too. And so it was kind of like both the one of the just movies of my childhood that I grew up watching and with all of that. And it's just fun to watch. And so Quentin Tarantino, I know you've said a lot that it's like your favorite movie, but it's not a perfect movie. Quentin Tarantino has gone on record saying he thinks it is the perfect movie. And
almost. He says it is a perfect movie.
Okay, a perfect movie. And he says, and he gives reasons why. And the reasons why
I haven't heard this part.
So the reasons why are the masterful script, right? That it's tight. The writing is tight.
Incredibly so.
It's genre blending. And so, like even when people are trying to describe it, it's like sci-fi, fantasy, romantic
family
comedy,
movie,
coming of age. Family movie, all the different
Love
things.
Lost.
Well, yes,
so many pieces.
Action. There's like a lot of stuff there, so it blends all kinds of genres.
Yeah,
rewatchability, right? It's fun to watch. You can just, for 40 years we've been watching this thing, Mark.
I enjoy it as much every time. I mean, I knew every joke that was going to happen long before it happened. I laughed at every one of them, and it wasn't like forced. It's like highly
funny.
Rewatchable.
I mean, it's been a couple years since I've watched it, but I was going back through and I'm like, oh, I forgot how funny this movie is. And jokes also just hit me differently. The emotional core is another one that he gives, right? There are emotions there. And iconic elements, like, say, a time-traveling DeLorean, right? Like, would anyone even know what a DeLorean was if it hadn't been...
Back then, they were a failing car company.
Right.
They really were... They only picked the DeLorean. Well, it was going to be
Mustang.
refrigerator. It was going to be
Well,
a
a
refrigerator.
refrigerator, and then Ford
And
Mustang
then
wanted
Mustang
to, wanted the
Ford
deal.
tried
Yeah.
to pay them off to make a
Yeah,
Mustang, but they
right.
wanted it because it looked like a spaceship the way the doors
Right.
open.
Yeah.
And the owner of DeLorean actually wrote Zemeckis a letter saying, "Thank you so much. Essentially, you've saved my car company."
Right, and it would be if they hadn't used it, none of us today would even
No.
remember
At all.
DeLoreans. And so I think
Absolutely.
it's also like that iconic element
Yeah.
that they, and I think the skateboarding too, you know, and then even
So
the
much fun.
hoverboarding of the second one, it's
Mhm.
fun. So I think maybe those things contribute to why it's so
Yeah.
it's become such a cultural staple. What do you think? Are there other things that have made this such a cultural staple that here we are 40 years later, everyone knows
Well, I
Back
mean,
to the
I
Future.
think it adds to it that the sequels each kind
Yeah.
of had their own theme, time period, and
Yeah.
they did them so well and interestingly, and they kept those tight scripts, and so you just bought more and more into these characters, and they became friends. I mean, there's also this fatherly relationship between Marty and Doc, which is the
Yeah.
real father-son relationship. Everyone talks about the other, but the real
Yeah.
one is between Doc and Marty, and we get to see
Yeah.
that travel through all these ages and the emotional journeys that they take together. It's just they do it everything right.
Yeah.
Even the soundtrack was just incredible. A matter of fact, they hired the guy from Back to the Future to write the theme music for the Avengers. That's how good he was. They were like, we need that guy to come into our.
Yeah, and like you said, Huey Lewis in the news too. I mean, do you ever hear "Power of Love" without thinking
No.
about him walking through the Hill Valley there? I mean,
That's
that's like
the
just the
power.
mental image you
Right.
have. With
Yeah. And what's
Power
crazy
of
is, you know, the Zemeckis wanted Huey Lewis for this film, and Huey was like, I don't write for movies. I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
And he wanted him so bad that he was like, listen, whatever the next song y'all write is, we'll just take it, whatever it is. It just happened to be The Power of Love.
Yeah.
And then they also wrote whatever the next song was, they did too. But and it is so brilliant. It works. And there's nothing in the song Power of Love about time travel
or
anything.
And yet it's like the
works
core
for
of
the
the
movie.
It
works for the movie because the movie, while it has a DeLorean and has time travel, it's not a time travel movie, really.
No, it's about the power of love, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought the cameo of Huey Lewis is like the judge, you know.
I'm sorry, but you're just too darn loud.
Yeah, I mean,
that's one of the rare moments in a theater where I still remember vividly because they had done such a good job at not telling you that was going to happen. And I remember the first shot of the four teachers on the panel and going, hey, is that Huey Lewis? Because, like I said, big fan. They had changed his hairstyle a little bit, put some cloaking glasses on him. Yeah. But when he said, I'm sorry, but you're just too dark, I was like, I remember just losing it. Like, I cannot believe this. And it's like in the first 10 minutes of the movie, maybe 5 minutes. It is the reason I remember where I was sitting in the theater and was that moment. I can still recall just leaning forward and almost standing up when he was revealed. So,
well, I mean, that's something too that I've appreciated with time, because like when I was watching it as like a 2-year-old on my bootleg VHS tape, like I obviously I didn't know who Huey Lewis was, and so that's kind of things that like I've grown in appreciation over the years.
Absolutely.
Too. But we almost got a very different Back to the Future.
Quite different,
right?
In many ways.
In many ways, because they had cast Eric Stoltz from Mask as Marty McFly, not because the Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the writer, wanted. Originally,
they wanted Michael. They just couldn't work it out.
They wanted him from the very
family
beginning.
ties schedule.
Right. And so, and the guy who's kind of in charge of finances, he wanted Eric Stoltz. Right. He had seen him in Mask. He's like, this guy can do anything, whatever. And he was so confident. He's like, hey, if it doesn't work out, you can just go reshoot the film. Right.
I'll pay for it anyway.
I'll pay for it. And
little did he know,
he thinks it's a tragedy, right? He goes through the table read, and he's like,
and and in a lot of ways, he's not wrong. I mean, it is sort of a tragedy story, you know. When Marty comes back,
Yeah,
everything is
it's
better,
different. Yeah,
but he doesn't have the childhood memory of it. His
yeah,
childhood memory is still that
it's
struggling
original.
family with
Yeah,
all the dysfunction. Everyone else gets
yeah,
this perfect
yeah,
story, and
yeah.
it is a tragedy. I mean, he's not wrong.
Yes. He's not wrong. He just played it like it was a tragedy, and
Yeah, and that did not
comedically,
work.
that does not work. So they can him, right, and they eventually convince Michael J. Fox. So I'm curious, Mark.
Mm.
Obviously, Michael J. Fox is Marty McFly, right?
Oh,
So
oh yeah.
can anyone else ever play Marty McFly? And
Not as long as the Bobs are alive.
okay, not
They
as
have
long as the-
exclusive. They did not give their rights of the film to the studio like most filmmakers do, and they have said straight up there will be no remakes of this as long as one of us is alive, and we will be instructing our our people who inherit all of this to do the same. He said we
I mean,
can't
then
force
thank
them
God.
to, but we're going to try to keep them to.
Thank God,
So
because no one wants to see a remake of this, right? I mean, I don't want to see
why
a
would
remake. It's
there's a handful of movies that should never be remade. The original Star Wars trilogy. Please don't mess with that.
I mean, Indiana Jones.
The first one.
Yeah, Indiana Jones. I mean,
Please don't.
yeah,
Yeah, but there's only a handful of movies that really are so iconic and so almost perfect in their own
yeah,
ways that you'd be desecrating it, man.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay,
this one,
so
no way.
no,
Absolutely not.
okay, no more. But if they hadn't been able to cast Michael J.
Yes.
Fox and they were still firing Eric Stoltz, who should have been Marty McFly? And would it have worked, or would it have not have worked with anyone other than Michael J. Fox?
I think Michael J. Fox's timing back then, there
Yeah,
wasn't anyone between the ages of 18 and 25 who was doing it quite as well as he did.
yeah,
And he played that. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
yeah,
As I'm talking, I'm trying to go through
yeah,
80 sitcoms of
yeah.
other like young male
Right?
actors that might have been able to. It'd have been a completely different movie. I mean,
Yeah.
the relationship between him and Christopher Walken
Or Christopher
makes
Lloyd.
Lloyd. I mean, Christopher
Yeah.
Walken. That'd have been a different movie.
I don't know. I mean,
Marty,
maybe
I
a
don't
remake.
know.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I'm kind of into this now. I mean, what would it be like if Doc were Christopher Walken?
That'd have been a whole Marty. I don't know. I'm not sure that would work.
No, way back to
We're back, Mark.
1985.
No, I don't think so. I think it was just
Yeah.
it was one of those magical storms where every right part came together, and it left us with this beautiful piece of entertainment, of art, of happiness, and there is something about it that pulls you in and allows you to live somewhere else for a bit, and it really does a magnificent job of keeping you so inside of it that your mind
Yeah.
doesn't wander to what's going on right now in the outside world, or what I should be doing, or what I need to do after the movie's over, or anything. It's just brilliant as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've seen like the screen tests when John Cryer auditioned Ben
Mhm.
Stiller. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It just doesn't.
It doesn't quite work. It doesn't feel
No.
right. It
No,
feels
it doesn't.
completely off for sure. There was just something about the perfect storm, man. It was incredible.
It was a perfect storm. It was just all the right people. And
Yeah.
man, I've got like 15,000 more questions that I
Oh,
want to geek out about.
I would geek out about this. There's so many things we haven't talked about that are
I
fun
know.
and exciting and different. All the way down to the life vest, to the atomic bomb, there's so many parts.
Right. Yes. And yes. Or even the title. There's a lot there. But you know what?
Spaceman
From
that-
Pluto.
from Pluto.
It was the same guy. It was the same guy who
Who-
insisted on Eric Stoltz.
Yeah.
Stoltz
And
that
I
wanted-
love Spielberg's reply to him of,
Thanks
in
for the
reference
film.
to your letter, that we really appreciated your humor. Please keep them coming.
Yeah, that's right.
What a brilliant way to not even address how bad it was.
I mean, that's just Spielberg being
Yeah,
awesome, you know,
yeah,
in all those ways.
absolutely.
Okay, but we can't geek out anymore about it because if we do,
Fair
we won't
enough.
get to theology and politics. So let's take a
Yeah.
break, take some more sips of our plutonium, and
Mm.
come back and let's get into the theology and politics.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for our theology political segment. So, I've already made it really clear how much I absolutely love this movie. If someone were to tune in just for this segment and hear my questions, they're going to think that I really, really did not like this movie because it was made 40 years ago, which
Yeah.
brings with it its own issues of what
Yeah.
politics looked like, what society looked like. There's so many other things going on here. So I want to dive right in, and people, you're going to hear there's some issues here that we need to talk about. So one of the things that the movie pivots on is Lorraine's life improving once her husband becomes successful and confident. I'm wondering, do you think that the film affirms the idea, for better or worse, that a woman's well-being depends ultimately on her husband's performance? But more importantly, how does that align or clash with the MAGA-style gender expectations of women and mothers?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, Lorraine is very much her own character, and certainly, like, one of the points of the film, is that she is not doing everything exactly the right way in the way that she talks about in the first version of events.
Right.
But is it set up so that her life is kind of dependent on her husband? Yeah, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
right down to the fact that the way that Marty tries to get them back together is making his dad the hero who comes to
The
save her
macho
when
hero.
when she's getting sexually assaulted by the
Mhm.
boy.
Which
I mean,
also is problematic. She was
yeah,
getting sexually assaulted, and it was so downplayed in the
yeah,
movie. It
yeah.
almost made it like, well, this is normal.
Yeah, like, oh well, Biff, he's a character. That Biff character.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, he tried to rape her, right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, so how does that align with MAGA? I mean, absolutely it aligns with MAGA. I mean, we've got all this about trad wives now, right? Like this
Right.
glorification of women submitting to men, which,
Yep.
as we've talked about here a number of times, just isn't biblical. It's
Not at
not
all. Yeah.
right. Like the early church lifted up women in leadership. Jesus was always
All the
about
time.
breaking down gender barriers, all of that stuff. And so, like, the whole notion of trad wife is certainly not a biblical thing. But I think the whole "boys will be boys" Mark thing is something that MAGA really embraces. Like, hey,
Big time. They
it's
literally excuse atrocities
yeah,
with variations of the argument boys will be boys,
yes.
or that men should be masculine with their definition of what masculine is.
Right, like, which also isn't biblical.
Not at all. No.
Jesus never called men to be macho. Jesus called people to be faithful
And
embodiments of the
faithful
great
and
God.
loving and grace
Yeah,
filled and
yeah,
forgiving. And yeah.
yeah. And so,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I agree. I think that we both that's one of the real issues with the movie, and I do wonder if movies like it, when you look at the ages of the people who are running the nation and doing the MAGA stuff, doesn't inform how they see the world, and wasn't maybe play a role in them wanting to get back to this kind of this false nostalgic idea of
mhm,
when things were perfect or right, because they
yeah,
never were like that, and they never were right when they were close to being like that.
right.
I want to move on to another issue that's in this movie that is a bit bothersome. So Goldie Wilson,
Yep.
the guy that works at the soda shop who decides he's,
Yeah.
because of something Marty says, going to run for mayor. Yeah, I mean, admittedly, that story arc is sort of charming. But
Yeah.
my question is it also sort of a token uplift, given that it happens in a predominantly white small town, and like, so is it a false kind of charming story arc based on what reality would have been? And then how does it kind of relate to politics today, particularly in the area of race?
Yeah, so I mean, it's also kind of problematic that instead of Goldie pursuing this on his own, that he has to be given the
A
idea
white kid
by
has to
a
give him that.
white guy,
Yeah,
right?
and the whole Chuck Berry song is part of this.
The same kind of
The,
thing, right? Like
the good stuff that happened to any African American
it
or
came
black
because of
person
Marty.
had to do with
Yeah.
a white kid, inspiring them.
Right. Yeah, and that one in particular is even more problematic for me than the Goldie piece.
The more problematic one is the reason I used it, because the Chuck Berry one, the argument can be made, no, Chuck Berry inspired Marty, and then Marty inspired Chuck's cousin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so I it certainly speaks to a kind of determination or people feeling like,
yeah,
well, actually the only reason black people are in power is because we've given that to them. And so I do think that, and that's something that hits me every time I watch the movie in that scene. That
Mhm.
that said, I think in the 80s, having lifting up a black mayor character is also something that's semi unique or somewhat
Yeah, I mean,
groundbreaking.
honestly, at that point in my life, I remember feeling
Yeah.
inspired that they were showing
Right.
this, but I wasn't thinking far enough along to see how it came about, and
Well,
whether or not it
right.
was realistic in this all
Yeah.
white small town. You know,
Yeah. But we're also talking 40 years ago, I
Right.
mean, the conversation was that we've had 40 more years of cultural experience to think about all of those things. But
Yeah,
in 2025, is it problematic? Yeah.
yeah,
So I think this definitely relates to the conversations that are going on right now about DEI, affirmative action, all of that. And I think it's also really tied into this idea that white folks are allowing people of color into these positions.
yeah.
And it takes away from the notion that people of color have control of their own lives and livelihoods, that they have their own skills to bring, and that affirmative action, that DEI programs are not about giving away white things
Right.
to people of color. It's about opening the field so that other talent can be recognized. And so, I mean, certainly I feel like we're going back 40 years or much further,
Well, and I
actually, in
mean,
terms
and
of
the truth
repealing
is,
those things.
yeah, I mean, the Republican Party, which is now primarily the MAGA party,
Yeah.
that is exactly what they want. They want us to go back then,
Of
so
course
that
they do. Yeah.
so that straight white quote Christian males can maintain their power, which
Yeah.
they're quickly see slipping away. Um, I want to move on because we're running out of time in this segment. I got a couple more questions I really want to
Yeah.
figure out. I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more questions. I want to slip a couple of them more in. So Marty's return to 1985 shows a more affluent McFly family,
Yeah.
hinting that personal transformation
Yeah.
equals socioeconomic uplift.
Yeah.
So theologically speaking, how does that connect to or conflict with Christian critiques of the prosperity gospel and Christian critiques of systems that limit socioeconomic movement?
Yeah, and I mean, this was Crispin Glover's main point about the movie is he's
Yeah.
like, hey,
That's why he
look,
didn't come back.
that's right, because he says, hey, look, it looks like success is all about happiness is all about monetary stuff, and that's
Yeah.
problematic. And he's right. I mean, it's a great story. It's a fun ending, and is it kind of problematic? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so I think certainly from a Christian perspective, the folks who speak on behalf of Christianity, often the loudest, who make Christianity synonymous with wealth, are the ones who are blaspheming the gospel, because Jesus is so clear, and not just Jesus. I think the entire Bible is very clear about this, that it is not compatible with God's will, with God's dream, with the vision for the future that the Bible casts, for there to be such an economic disparity, such a wage gap, that all of that sets one group of people up financially in a different place than everyone else is just simply not compatible with the biblical call to justice. And so I think in terms of like prosperity gospel preachers and all, I think then it is the job of Christians to say no. I mean,
Right.
they're always perfectly fine to call out progressive Christians and say, "Oh, you guys are not really compatible with Jesus." I
Yeah.
think progressive Christians going to have a call to do that too, to say,
I
"Hey,
completely agree.
prosperity gospel preachers, hey preachers, hey Christian nationalist preachers, you're not preaching in ways that are compatible with the teachings of
Not even
Jesus
close.
Christ."
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do think it's important to also note that there is a bottom part of the social economic scale where life is stacked so much against you that it's not impossible to be happy, but
Yeah.
it's difficult when your basic needs aren't getting met. So it's also
Fair.
important.
Yeah.
It is also important that Christians work to dismantle and rebuild more systems that work better towards allowing people to lift themselves up some, without the ultimate goal being to keep climbing the ladder so that you're so much more successful and somehow much happier because of it. All right,
Accumulate
I'm
all
gonna-
the things, all the wealth.
right. Yeah.
That's it.
I'm going to squeeze
Yeah.
one more in. We're
Yeah.
almost at the end of this segment. Pretty simple one. Does the movie see the future as something to be hopeful or fearful about? And then what about our current society?
Yeah. I mean, kind of both, actually, because when Marty goes back in time, he kind of messes everything up and spends a lot of that time being scared. In fact, I don't think he really is actually even thinking he's changing the future for the better. He's just trying to stop himself from being out of existence. I think when he comes back, then he has hope for the future based on the way things have changed. But of course, that's quickly offset by Doc coming back, say, "Marty, I've got bad news. We got to do something about your kids." Like it's and then I mean the second movie explores this in great detail, right? Like about hope,
I love
hope and
so
fear
much fun.
for the future. So it's both, I think. In terms of what it means for now, it's both. I mean, like we've got
Right.
a possibility.
Exactly.
We've got a possibility of the Star Trek future. We got a possibility of the Handmaid's Tale future, and it's up to us which way we're going. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. It's exactly why I asked the question the way I asked the question, that I believe that it is both. I think that's the tension of life, essentially, that the future is always open and there's always potential for good. There's always potential for bad. It rains equally on the good and the bad. And we have to figure out our way forward and make the best choices we can. One of the tricks that we have to try to learn is to not rest so long in either the hope or the fear. If you're going to rest in either, a little more in the hope, but recognize that life is life. Live in the moment. I mean, we have Jesus teaching about that all the time. And I think this is one of the reasons. Be in the moment. Recognize the future is going to happen. Make the best choices you can in the moment so that you might be able to create a better future. That is certainly part of what we are called to do. All right. God, like I said, I got 3 more questions I'd love to get to, but we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to take a quick drop here and we'll come back on the other side, because we do not want to miss out on our favorite segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're entering our last and favorite segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment, where we might try to ask a question about something we don't know about. We might ask our co-host something that we think is going to stump them. We might ask them a question about a prediction for the future. I'm not quite sure how we would do that on this. We've got our trilogy,
All right.
and
Well,
uh,
yeah, that's true. Very true. Very true. I think you're
yeah,
right. That last part would be hard to do.
it
Yeah.
would be hard to do. Yeah.
I also need to say I didn't point it out when you did it, but you
Yeah.
did sort of steal one of my questions.
Yes,
One of
sort of.
one of my questions was Quentin Tarantino calls the film a perfect movie. Why is he right? And you stole that one essentially.
Okay.
So well
Okay.
done.
Okay.
You're beginning, like there was a stretch there where you really weren't doing such a great job at
I
stealing
know.
any of my
I'd like this whole season. I've
You feel
not.
like I don't know. Feels like the last time you sort of get one. You kind of
I think
created.
it was another
I
like
think
sort
you-
of thing.
I think
Yeah.
you got me to steal my own question, kind of thing. But
Oh,
still,
yeah.
I think we're seeing movement towards you being back on that horse. And I say back on
Yeah.
that horse because of Back to the Future 3. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that yeah, you got one.
Okay, Mark. So Bob Gale came up with
Hmm.
the idea for this movie by looking through his dad's yearbook.
Yep.
And he saw that his dad was president of his high school class, and he didn't know that, and he wondered if he would be friends with him in high school. Wondering, Mark, do you think, as you think about like this stage in your life, do you ever go back and think, I wonder if I'd be friends with these people if we'd met 30 years ago? Do you ever have moments like that?
Yeah, I absolutely have those moments. I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of life, right? Is that I mean, we all change so much, and to think about the folks that maybe are even the closest to us right now,
Yeah.
whether or not 30 years ago they would have been the persons that we were closest to. I mean, 30 years ago, man, I was barely, I'm not even sure I'd call myself a progressive Christian.
Yeah.
I was definitely Christian.
Yeah.
I was definitely open-minded. I was definitely social justice oriented.
Yeah.
But when it came to theology, man, I still bought in hook, line, and sinker to a lot of the the literal ways of interpreting what's there. And it took me quite a while to kind of shake those off and figure out how do you move forward from that. So no, I'd have to say a lot of the people that I am with now, that if they were who they are 30 years ago,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have wanted to be hanging out with me. For sure. What about you, man? That's a great question. It's really interesting.
Well,
to
you know,
think about,
I know
right?
it's not really make me about making. I'm just genuinely curious. It's something I think about every time that I think I watch this movie. Is that I wonder, like it's one of the things that's fascinating to me about life, is that there are just different people in your stage in different or at different stages of your life, and so
Sure, of course.
different people come through, and it's funny how you connect for a while, and then some people stay in your life, some people leave, and you grow and you change, and even if you stay basically the same, just different circumstances of your life. I do think sometimes I'll think about, like, would my parents and I have been friends in high school? And I think my parents were a lot cooler than I was in high school, because I was really a nerd in high school. I was a geek, So
I don't know anything about that.
but I think my parents were cool. So I don't know.
I agree.
I would have been willing to be friends with them. So
my dad was the shortstop for the state winning baseball team. We did, me in high school didn't have a lot in common with that. I played some sports, but not the star of the state winning team. And I was also quite geeky. I think I was friends with everybody, but I wasn't close friends with most of the jocks unless they had some geeky leanings. So I get that. I definitely get that.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I like kind of tried to mix in different social groups and do all those kinds of things. Kind of friends with everybody, but
absolutely,
but geeky. Okay, cool.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
The last line of the final movie, 3, which I just mentioned at the beginning of the segment.
Okay, yeah.
Has Doc saying, "Your future is whatever you make it." Now, the larger franchise does seem to imply that.
Hmm.
And it may be a big part of why it's so popular.
Yeah.
But is that true? Your future is whatever you make it.
Kinda. Kinda not.
I think we want it to be.
Of course we want it to be. I mean, that's the American philosophy, right?
Right.
You can make yourself whoever you want to be. And but like Martin Luther King Jr. said, you can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps if you don't have any boots, you know?
Right.
So I mean,
Exactly.
it
That's the whole
depends.
point.
It depends, right? It depends on your social circumstances, on whether, as you were talking about earlier, how upwardly mobile you can even be, or, or even what your options are, and
Mhm.
happiness isn't necessarily related to any of those
Right.
things. And so, is it true that our choices make a difference in our lives? Yeah, and I mean, we do have control over some of our choices. We don't have control over other of our choices.
Right.
And so I think it's a both and. Like, I think we have the power to make a decision about how we respond to our circumstances, and that can impact the trajectory of our lives. Can we make ourselves anything we want to be? No. I
No.
mean, I can't make myself a state champion shortstop or whatever.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
that's not ever going to be me, no matter how
Yeah.
hard I work at that. So I think it's a both and, but I do think there are some things that are difficult to overcome. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's exactly why this movie works so well and why people
Yeah.
love them so much is because it does pitch the idea that your future is whatever you make of it. And I think there is something deep in us that understands that that's not true because we know how the systems are, but the
Yeah.
systems just seem so overwhelming and so large, and it feels like I can't do much about it. So someone who's willing to tell me a story 3 different times that delivers the message solidly, that you can make the choice. Your rugged individualism can make the choice of what you will be
Yeah.
in your future. That's a story that sells, man. We all want to hear that because even those of us who are fighting the systems that control what your future looks like, we recognize how big those systems are and how hard
Yeah.
they are to deconstruct and reconstruct and make healthier. So I think that's part of the magic, it's part of the beauty. They found that message
Hmm.
in the midst of a reality of what society looks like. And we'd all love for that to be true. And I agree with you. It is partially true. But man, we are nested within so many systems
Hmm.
that control so much about our lives that it's not ultimately true, uh, which I think pushes us back towards the Christian call to confront those systems that limit how a person can grow and who they can be and how far they can grow, and to try to change them.
That's I think perfect. I think that's a perfect answer. Mark, I know we got to wrap up the segment, but there is a lot of facts that we didn't get out, and
So
so
many.
I want to play a game at
Okay.
the end of this segment, since we still got a couple minutes left. I want to
All right.
play something called "Did You Know?" And so
Okay.
let's just go back and forth about
Oh
random
no,
facts
well, that's not fair.
about
You
Back to the
got to be
Future.
prepared for this. All right. All right.
No, I just
I'll
came up
see
with
what I
this
can
right
pull
now,
out.
man. I think we can start with some of the things we were saying earlier, and let's just
Okay.
for a minute or so, we say,
Okay.
did you know this about Back to the Future? You want to go first or second?
Okay, sure. Did you know that the reason he's wearing a thing that looks like a life preserver is because the original actor dressed all in black because he was
Black.
taking it so seriously, and he just blended into the 50s. He didn't look like he was some weird freak and then standing out in it at all.
I love that. It's such comedic value added. Did you
Absolutely.
know the original way that he was going to get back to the future was by an atomic bomb blast but it was too expensive to film. They need to shave $6 million.
Absolutely. Did you know that there's a bumper sticker on Doc's van that says something about the atomic blast because it was filmed when they still thought that they might do it?
I didn't know that. It was,
Yep. On the back of it.
it was on the back
On
of
the
it.
back of it, the one that the DeLorean comes out of,
Yeah.
it was a sticker on the back that said something about the atomic blast. Yep.
Okay, and we already mentioned the refrigerator. We already mentioned
But did
other.
you know
Yeah.
that Spielberg stole that idea and put it into Indiana Jones and had
Oh my
Indiana
God,
Jones
I
escape
d-
an explosion in a refrigerator. And you know why they cut it? Did you know they cut it? Because back then, the doors of refrigerators had latches on them and they didn't want kids to be trying to recreate the scene.
Mark, all I can say is if Spielberg could have just let go of that idea, of that, nothing
that was so bad.
affiliated with Steven Spielberg should ever be like in the same category as Jump the Shark, Nuke the
Right.
Fridge,
Yeah,
Jump
it
the
really
Shark.
should not.
Yeah.
It was
Okay. Hey,
bad. And it was a bad scene too.
it was bad. I mean, it was bad. It's like, okay, because I think about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I think like okay, is it
I'm
really that
sorry.
much?
Then you
Yeah.
think about it. I try not to think about it.
Well, I try not to, but these are the things I think about, and I'm like,
fair enough.
okay, aliens. I guess aliens are probably more believable than or interdimensional beings, right? Because Spielberg
Yeah.
didn't want to do aliens,
Right.
and so Lucas comes back, interdimensional beings. Like, I guess that's more believable than like the Ark, like sucking people's faces
People
or whatever.
melting their faces.
But it's that scene, the nuke in the fridge scene that it's just like, okay, well, here's where Indiana Jones completely goes
Went
off
too
the rails.
far.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I just want to geek out for like the rest of the day.
That was fun. I'm glad you did that.
But you know what? We need to talk about next time, and we've already decided that for the next couple of weeks, we've got to skip a couple of weeks. But we're
be
both
back traveling and have other things
right?
going on.
Yes, but in 3 weeks we'll be back, and you had an idea about a new movie that's coming out. What is it, Mark?
I'm so excited. We are getting the second half of Wicked. Wicked for Good is coming out, and the early reviews are already in, and there are those who are saying it's even better than the original, the first part of it, and the first part was incredible. So I think we're in for a real treat. What do you think?
Oh, I am in for it. For good. Who can say?
For good.
Yes. Who can
I'm
say?
so excited about it,
It's going to be good. I'm excited about it too.
I managed to get in a day early. It releases on a Thursday. I got into an early Wednesday screening. I tried to get into an early Tuesday screening, but I tried that a month ago, and the early Tuesday screening was already sold out.
Oh, okay. So this is gonna be off the chain. It's gonna be great, and I'm gonna take my 10-year-old. She's obsessed with Wicked, and so we'll go through. We'll do the sing along of the first one, and then we'll go and we'll go watch the second one.
I'm going to be set up at the house. I'm going to time it out, the amount of time it takes me to travel to the theater. So I'm going to watch the entire first one and literally walk out the door, get in the car, and drive to see part 2.
Now here's the most important question: are we gonna get another viral TikTok dance out of Wicked for Good?
We will find out, huh?
Yeah, because I feel like we need some.
Probably will be. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, this has been fun. Great call, Mark, on talking about Back to the Future. I'm so glad that this is a movie that we all love and have gotten to talk about. So I can't wait to talk about Wicked for Good next time on the Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine